a forum is also a great idea, because then if there's a forum, you guys...
It's never going to happen.
It's never going to happen.
Youngsters, take note. You must create this, please.
Hey, they must create this thing. Because I'm thinking it makes sense. If, let me say, I always put it in the club context. A club, for instance, opens at, let me say, 10 p.m. Then you could look at doing shows during the daytime, whatever your event is during the daytime, and partner with the club. And they know that they'll move from whatever that event is to the club. Do you get me? Then club people can look at it like that. Club managers and owners could look at it like that. I mean,
it's also like you being aware of this as promoters. Like, if you want to contribute, you shouldn't be taking away.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, there are guys that I love and respect in this industry. A lot of them that I'm friends with, that have built things over 10, 15, 20, 25 years, that these things are going. Some of them maybe not so long. Some of them maybe 8 years. Some maybe 5. But are consistent and contribute enough, and people are aware of these things and they support these things. And if you want to enter into the space, yes, be unique and be an individual in some kind of way, shape or form in terms of making your brand stick out. But, you know, also pay homage to the things that inspired you for you to be here. Even if it was an event that you weren't necessarily impressed with, but that event sparked on this drive for you to create something. Because, like I said it in the beginning of this conversation, the more contribution we have, the bigger our industry can become, and the bigger footprint we can have as a nation in terms of music and consuming music and hosting and facilitating these kinds of events and festivals that makes more people from overseas want to be in our country.
Yes.
Which is not just great for our scene, but it's great for our country, it's great for tourism, it's great for investments, it's great for a lot of things. So yeah, like, let's support each other. That's, I think, is the most important. If you don't like a certain type of music, then great. It doesn't mean you bash that certain, because you didn't go through what that person. Again, don't ever call that person fortunate. You don't know what it cost them.
Yeah.
I think that's very important to say.
That's something that, by the way, I relate to as well, because I always said, I remember tweeting that I've always just everything that we've talked about is something that I relate to, first of all, from the mentorship thing, because I've always said, I remember tweeting, the one thing that I wanted as soon as I got to the industry in Joburg, so when I moved to Joburg, was a mentor, and I wanted it to be a woman, but because the men sexualized me, I couldn't get a guy mentor at my time. I remember saying that, and I realized that
that's actually a thing. I've realized you're not the first female artist that said that they were trying to grow in this industry and looked at a few male figures in the beginning and almost tried to take advantage of you, or that's very horrible. That's actually disgusting. I'm sorry that you went through that.
It's a real thing. It's a real thing, and it's when I realized that probably some part of the growth that I came in with was stunted in the industry in Joburg, because then there are some spaces where it's like an artist is going to look at you and say, they're going to look at you and let me say box you before they even know you, for instance. Or someone, I remember I also got comments like, hello, ubonakale ngathi uyazitshela. I was like, some things like that. So it's then when I was like, oh my goodness, how does a person win here? Because one, you claim you don't like me because you say you don't like me because you think that I have an attitude. Have you met me? You are not booking me because I rejected you. You are not fucking with me because I rejected you. You put me on, but because you want something from me.
You put me on, yeah.
So where, like, what does a person win?
I think it's a very sad thing that we've noticed over many years, that it being a heavily male-dominated industry, that it's very difficult for women to break into it. And I definitely see that it's improved. There's a lot more female artists that are getting love, and I want more of that. You know, we try and include as many female artists as we can, if and when we hear about them, you know, because again, it's a very male-dominated industry. But I must say, on behalf of all men that I am in line with, I think I'm very sorry that you were treated that way. I don't think anyone deserves to be subjected to that point, that you want to pursue something and it's about you giving in and selling a part of literally yourself to get there. It's not fair. But I do think that there are women that you can reach out to that, and I know you have relationships with some of them now that you've obviously grown your career, but I do think that, you know, more women that are established need to also maybe voice up and just have a workshop. You know, or something.
I added on that note, by the way, in that tweet, I was like, the women had a competitive energy towards me, which I did not understand. To this day, I do not understand.
It makes sense from someone who looks at it at this point of view. Again, it's a male-dominated industry. Not many ladies that want to really get into it really make it. So, but I would turn around and say that 99% of people that try and get into this industry don't make it. So, but I think I somehow feel like it's been harder for ladies to get into this industry until maybe recently. I think more people are open to have female artists on their lineups. I know specifically us as an event group, with all the businesses that I'm affiliated with, we want more female artists. Because ladies also, just as a female, you just have a very different perception of life. You go through very different things in life. We walk same roads, but just different experiences on the same road. And I don't know, there's just something about a woman that can conduct music and share that is sexy. And because you don't have a lot of it, it becomes more appealing. But it shouldn't come down to race. I mean, not race. It shouldn't come down to gender. And just as much as it shouldn't come down to race, it shouldn't come down to these things. It should come down to, are you good enough? Like, can I connect with what you're doing? And like, do you have something that I think other people would see as a promoter? This is me talking as a promoter. And like, what is your ambitions, and are we aligned? And then great, here's an opportunity. So I do, like, now with our thing at the living room on Sundays, I do auditions. And maybe this ends up getting more people to come and audition, but we're really doing auditions, and it's for guys that you never get an opportunity. That you can actually see them in the setting and not just receiving a mix that you don't know if it was
made by the person who was
or even if it's on a virtual DJ,
it's on a virtual
or a tractor.
Can I tell you something?
It's a real thing, bro.
Weird. And we're going to get to what you guys are planning as an event agency and what you guys are working on. This conversation of receiving mixes, there was a whole competition that was run by a big company, and I was part of it, where they ran the whole thing based on pre-mixes. And I didn't get it. I was like, guys, when I used to do competitions, literally, I remember doing a Red Bull competition. Red Bull was like, come audition, let's hear how you play. Then from then they select, literally you just come and you audition and they see you and they hear you play. So this brand hosted a competition based on pre-mixes. How are you doing that?
What did you win when you?
At the time they were looking, if I tell all this information, you guys are gonna know. At that time they were offering a slot at Ultra and some other stuff. At that time, they're like at the main stage of Ultra. At that time, it was weird for me because they also ran this, so that these competitions nowadays, they run their competitions on social media, and I'm like, first of all, someone who enters this competition, let me say, we first enter from a pre-mix first of all, and then you ask your supporters to be the one to retweet, and that's what gets you to win, retweets. So if someone who's decided to get someone to do a kick-ass pre-mix for them, and they've got over 100,000 followers, surely that person is going to get more traction.
I think that, I mean, I hear what you're saying, and I think that kind of traditional competition marketing, I don't think I see a lot of it now.
The traditional being what? We put a stage and people audition?
No, I mean like the traditional like competition of like running digital marketing for competitions is that people submit their mixes online.
When you say traditional, what do you mean? Like,
so like it was the way that...
It is the way, this is 2020.
I mean, I don't know when last I've specifically run a competition like that, and that's why I'm saying it like that. I think that's like a very traditional digital,
It's a weird way.
I don't think you really get anything out of it. In the beginning, around 2014, 2015, yes, I used to do that because the Internet of Things was still very new and connecting on social media was still very new. And but it's definitely better to do it in person. But I will say this, because I do see this other side. It's like, this is part of your advertising campaign.
I get that. That's how one looks at it.
You know, so this is also how I'm looking at it, you know. So this is part of your advertising campaign. Where do you have the time to now sit and audition 100 people?
Yeah.
So generally, the rule of thumb behind this, and that's why I said like kind of traditional, but it's not really traditional, but so lack of a better word. But the rule of thumb behind this is, now I receive your demo.
Yes.
Right? You have included your demo with all of your links, all of your stuff like that. So it's not just about how good your music is, it's also just about seeing, is like, how active are you, like how driven are you, like is this a brand that I can fuck with, is this something that I can push? For me personally, as a promoter, when I find someone, I've got like levels. Like you enter into this space, then from this space, if you do well at this audition, then I bring you here, then from here, then I take you there, then after you there, then you go there, then there's like a whole pathway of platforms, you know, that I can offer. But a lot of other guys can't. You know, for a lot of other guys, it's like you either impress here and then this is the thing, and the thing is this big thing. Yeah. But the other platforms, you have to kind of get there on your own for us to notice. So I think that's also like a very different way that I've kind of differentiated
so how do you
myself.
Do yours also.
So, okay, so well, I mean, I'm involved in quite a bit, so let me just go over what I'm involved in, okay? So, Weston&Engine, DJ, producer, all right? Global and local releases, charting, all of it's done. Played a lot of shows all over the country, all the big notable ones, and there's now some new ones that have come around that I'd love to play on, so I still have a wish list. Then we have Off Center, which is an events company and an artist management agency that also assists with consulting with said specific venues like the Living Room. And we host Concrete and a bunch of other shows that we've done from Ann Club to Summit. And then we have affiliation brands. Then I also own Al Momento, which is our boutique experimental music kind of festival. It's open air, but it's boutique. I wouldn't call it a full-blown art festival because it's between 500 to 1,000 people. And it's always a sellout show, which I'm very blessed about. Like, I'm very blessed. It's 7 years old this year. Then I've started another event consultancy business called Event Horizon. There's a new club that's going to be opening in Four Ways. That's called Horizon. Just look out for that. You'll see that information being coming through from like the start of April that we're trying to assist with. We've come in quite late at the start of this project. They were already underway, and we're now trying to help them, you know, kind of increase the level and get to a point where we can. So that would then formulate another platform. But that venue itself is looking at up and coming artists. Yeah. The whole vision is about building up and coming artists and creating a platform for them and a hub for them. And there's a whole thing. We have to do like another episode on it. Right. And then we've been creating this 360-degree music and entertainment global business that will launch this year in line with 10 years of Weston&Engine. And that business is called We Are Music Global, and We Are Records Global. So the heart of everything is a record label company. There's a marketing company, there's an events business, there's a consultancy business, and the marketing agency and a talent agency. So it's like its own ecosystem. Everything is fed from the talent agency into the events that uses the marketing company and the consultancy to get these venues, and the marketing that pushes it, and it's aligned with global artists that we have direct contact with, agencies that we have direct contact with, parties that we have direct contact with. And the strategy behind it is a very non-traditional record label where guys just submit music to you. There will be a part of the business where guys submit music, but in the beginning of the record labels, we're actually selecting the guys that we want to have on the label. There's a strategy behind the artists that are releasing the label. There's an event property that's tied to those specific said releases and showcases that are tied to them in line with the other local releases that we do. So there's a whole 360-degree business that I'm very excited to share. It will come out this month, and you'll get an exclusive on it. Yeah, and then I'm also a big brother and and a lover of life and people.
Tell me something. I feel like we need to wrap up soon. Like we need to wrap because we've been on air for over an hour and a half.
I don't even know how long we've been on.
We've been on air for a long time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Wait. Let me first touch on this first, and Mob, you can touch on what you want to touch on. Listen. So, a lot of the time, and you host a lot of these shows. A lot of the time, a lot of people are on some. I host shows so I can book myself. Is that the case with you?
No, not necessarily. It is a platform for myself as well. I think, like I said in the beginning of this conversation, when you start doing shows, there's just some people book you less because you have your own shows. Other people want to be involved with you because now there's a lot of guys that run events and festivals and properties and stuff that are artists themselves.
Yes. I think we should be running. We should be doing shows.
So there is a lot of this collaboration. I'm not saying I do a booking, you do a booking, whatever. It's like there's an understanding. Like we're pushing together, we're contributing together.
Yeah.
Like I really respect what you're doing. You fit on this bill. Doesn't mean you get every single booking. Like I don't get every single booking, but there are those engagements and relationships. But if I don't create my own platforms for my shows, then who's going to? But let me give you an example. For the consultancy deals that we have where the events are running every week, I don't book myself every week.
Sure.
Because that would go against the principle of me trying to create a platform for other people.
Sure.
So we will play once a month, which we do already.
Yeah.
But for the bigger festivals and the bigger shows, of course you want to be able to put yourself on it as long as you're fitting. And as long as you're relevant. I never push myself above any other artist. But I certainly also don't want to go through a space where I'm working on a show for 3 months and building this amazing thing. It's like a big white palette, and everyone in the festival, all the patrons, all the artists, everyone that's involved, they walk past this palette, they take a piece of paint and they throw it on there. I want to be a part of that process.
Yeah.
So I can see how beautiful this end product looks.
Yeah.
So of course I want to play because that's a way that I also add value.
Yeah.
Fortunately enough, and I can say this, is a lot of the shows that I do also want to see us play.
Sure. Yeah.
So that is a fortunate thing. It's not like I'm putting myself ahead of other guys that I think deserve it more, don't deserve it, or whatever the case is. There is also demand to want to see us play. So it kind of works like that it's kind of come about that way. But again, like for me, the more the merrier. If I can grow these properties, for example, like Armamento, the plan is, at the end of the year, maybe we're having like 2 or 3 or 4 stages. That we can be more inclusive and not just running one stage from 11 o'clock in the morning to 12 o'clock at night. Then there's more opportunities and more avenues. But I'm not a person that puts myself above anyone else. I think if you speak to a lot of young artists, promoters, especially guys trying to break in, which I know you already have, they'll tell you one thing about me is that I give opportunities. I give guys a chance because I want to. I didn't really have a lot of that, and I want to be the change that I want to see there. So yeah.
Relatable. What's up, Mob? We wanted to
ask a question.
To deposit something.
For me, it's 2 things. It's coming back to, you guys touched quite a bit about the mentorship aspect, and one of the things that I think, at least one of the things that I try to, impress upon creatives and artists is the fact that you can't escape from the business side of things.
You can't.
You cannot.
It would be great if all we, had to do was to create. But you do need machinery around these things. You need structure. You need
mechanics, processes.
And most of the time, people don't like corporate, but you do need to align.
You need that governance,
You need that governance, either internally or an alignment with. So for me, one of the big ones is mentorship, right? We talk about mentorship where someone is helping to guide you. But another aspect, in corporate at least, is
Internship.
the idea of there's internship, but I wanted to touch on sponsorship. Right? Because sponsorship is not, your sponsor is not your mentor. Your sponsor is the person who is advocating for you in rooms where you are not there. Right? People are having discussions. Right? Let's say, for example, people are having discussions about what Ultra's lineup is going to be for 2024. Right? Your sponsor is the person who is speaking on behalf of Side Jones when Side Jones is not in the room. Right? So my question is just more around how you can have the best mentor, but if your mentor is not there,
Advocating for you,
so advocating for you, then there is still need for that whole sponsorship thing. So my question is just more around, is sponsorship a thing? Because I'm pretty sure that there are people that are speaking on behalf of certain interests in some of these rooms. Like,
I have seen it.
yeah.
I have seen that there are certain people that want to advocate for someone, and they're like I don't think they are termed a
sponsor.
A sponsor,
Yeah,
but there
same.
is that level of involvement and engagement and representation. For me personally, what I do is like every year I take on like 2 students.
Yeah.
For real?
Yeah, every year I take on 2 students just for a year. There's still guys that I end up helping after that point, but it's like really just to get them at a certain level where they can start being contributors, It'd be great for me to now, and I'll flip this on you, it'd be great for me to go, cool, I'm your mentor, but I'm also your sponsor. Yeah. Because that's the way that I take on the mentorship. I take on the mentorship because I see something that I can work with. I see a drive, I see a passion, I see a willingness to learn. I don't see an ego and an entitlement, and that makes me want to already advocate for you, because if I'm going to sit here with you for a whole year and show you tricks of the trade and how to fast track your career and who the right people are to get into touch with and how you go about doing these things, when I'm sitting in close, I'm already advocating for you. I'm advocating for you in my own way. I'm putting you on my lineups. I'm pushing your name forward. I don't know how much of this is governed in the way that you're speaking about it, from like, is there a corporate company or is there an individual that actually goes right to the roots of being involved in the industry and supporting events and parties, that they actually now handpick someone that is not related to them.
Yeah.
And goes, okay, I'm going to be your sponsor. Like, I will buy you the gear. I've seen this once or twice.
I've seen it.
But
with
it's
some
not
organizations
not common.
It's not common at all.
Because I won't lie, like even in corporate circles, it's hard to come by as well. That person who sticks out their neck for you, when others are not.
It's also like it's difficult because, again, there's the one thing about this industry that we're speaking about is let's not shy away from the fact that these environments, if you're not responsible in these environments, they are adult environments. And if you abuse anything within these environments, you can really get carried away in anything. So it's like, if you're sponsoring someone, are you babying them? Like, are you there holding their hand all the time? Because a lot of what people are not saying, and I think we've touched on it a bit, Shay, is the way you conduct yourself in these spaces. Because you, as much as you need to be a part of the industry and contribute and somewhat be aligned, it doesn't mean that you need to go and sit with that said promoter or promoters or people and drink tequila to your heart's content and take lines of cocaine with them, in certain spaces and go to after parties with them, and because some people also feel like, shit, I must do this in order to be noticed by these people. And I think you have to be authentically who you are without selling yourself out. And maybe if you respect yourself that much as an artist, and because this is business, like you're saying, the way you look at it is like a business, then you draft a portfolio and you understand the market and the industry, and you approach people and go, listen, I need a sponsor, or I need a mentor, this is what I'm about, here's my stuff, please come to my house, please can we set up a meeting? Like, no one's going to do that for you. you know, sometimes you meet a lot of these kids by chance, or they reach out to you, and like I said, like if you're so busy and it's that one day when you're in a good mood that you decide to reply. I try and reply all the time.
Yeah.
You know, I make it like it's a part of who I am and my DNA and the way that I work and my work ethic, that I try and reply all the time. But there's a lot of cats that don't want to listen. They're not interested. Unless you're there all the time in front of them. And then what do you have to do to be in front of them? You see, it's a...
I have something to say to that, but...
Yes.
That doesn't...
Non-violent. Thou shalt overcome. I have been to the mountaintop non-violent.
So, whilst you're away, you missed when he said that he's meant to be a priest.
I was gone for 2 seconds, guys.
2 seconds.
Yeah, we can touch on it if you really want to.
Meant to be a priest. Okay, so...
That time you said you're about to finish.
That time I said I'm about to
part two,
finish.
Yeah, we can do a part 2. Let's do a part 2.
We might just need a part 2, or we can record everything and split it into 2 parts.
Okay, I still have my second.
Yes, your second question.
Yes, but yes, you.
Okay,
I was
you
about to
actually-
mention something.
You were about to respond.
I was about to mention something, and I was just thinking along those lines of, you know, when someone this whole mentorship or sponsorship, or whenever someone. It's like, how do you see then this is the person that you want to sponsor? Because one, we mentioned something along the lines of, or even someone you want to mentor, or even that case. Because now it's like, how do you see it? Because one, are you always paying attention to them? Someone once said something to me that, you know why his Mang is succeeding at this is because they've been going to every single deep house or house music event, and that's probably what you should do. I'm like, little did you know, before these people started, before these people you're comparing me to started doing what we're doing, I was doing exactly that. But the problem is that no one was looking at me the way that probably they were looking at them at the time. So what are you now trying to say? How are you looking at somebody to decide that I want this person?
I think
I
can
want to
answer
work
you.
with this person.
I can actually answer you. I think everything is in the approach. I think a lot of promoters get very turned off by a certain approach. And I'm not saying that's in your instance, but a lot of guys get really turned off by an approach, especially of someone that's younger that doesn't really understand the way the world works after school. It's like you're not respecting it in a very professional manner. The points of engagement and the things that you're speaking about are very like superficial things and really don't cover enough substance but then again, there's another point to look at it, which is like you're taking your time out and you're going to all of these places. There's something to be said in that.
Yeah.
So as the promoter, then you should be like, but wait, like we bumped into each other there. We bumped into each other here. Obviously, there's this love and this affinity that you have towards this thing. Maybe I should take note. So it is kind of like a two-way street. But a lot of what I've noticed is, and I'll say this quite frankly, like please and thank you. Please and thank you.
Okay, yeah, please and thank you.
Those are 2 words. If you do not use them with me, you will never have a chance ever, because those are 2 words that acknowledge presence, respect, and where that person is. You acknowledge that person in there just by using those 2 words. And I see a lot of this, and I'm approached with a lot of this. Oh yeah, you're doing it. What's it going to take for me to be on a lineup? Not even a please can you consider me, please can we have a conversation, thank you for your time. Yes, it's nice and it's polite, and people don't want to be that way because they feel like, oh, you know, that's not the way the world works. Well, sorry, bro, that's the way I work. We should all work like that. Everyone should feel like, as a community, we can have 2 basic words that are please and respect that we use amongst each other to get somewhere. And the approach is everything. If you're just butting into someone's conversation,
Yeah.
you know, as an example, of going, hey, can I take a photo, and then like, you're also not acknowledging that person, like, for the fact that they're also just a person. They're not just this object that you can put on your social media to say you met this and this person. There is this level of, hey, what's happening? How are you doing? Geez, you're this person. Or acknowledge who that person is. This is, like, for me, thank you for this. This is what you've shown. And like, make that connection so that person feels like, okay, shit, you see me, like I'm doing something good. Let me give you some time. A lot of that is really kind of like brainwashed between, oh no, I must get drunk with this person, I must do this, I must look cool first, and then the business comes second, when the business should be first.
Did you want to say something more before I continue with that thought?
No, I agree with all that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So this is my problem with. I mean, everybody has a different story to tell, especially when it comes to that. And you're right. Maybe approach is the most important thing. But then when you don't, let me say, you do the approach, you check you do your checks of how you introduce yourself to someone and how you do things. Like it feels like to you did everything you possibly can, but then it still feels like you're not getting to the spaces that you should be.
Some guys also only wake up later, like I can tell you in my own experience, which is very similar to yours. You know, they don't want to give you any attention or time or whatever, and you've kind of got to break through so many barriers outside them or around them for them to actually be like, oh shucks, you know, this is that cat that was talking to me that time.
Yeah, no?
I can see he's now he's not moving alone. You know, he's friends with that guy that I respect. He's friends with that guy that I respect. Obviously he has something, or she has something. Oh shucks, I've missed out now on this. Let me go make an approach and kind of open things up, because maybe I left things, and I'm sure that's happened to you in so many ways, especially more recently, where guys are like actually coming up to you and they're going, and this also is like not for me, I want to say this as a side note, but guys actually go, yo, you know, we love the fact that you're an entertainment journalist and you want to start conversations on these specific things. We need more people to talk about that. Fuck, I respect that. You know, thank you so much. And then maybe connect with you like that. And that is also just me saying, just hands up, like, I really respect what you're doing. I'm very grateful that you had me there, and we can have these conversations, and hopefully they bring about some good things.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I'm saying, some guys only wake up late. It also happened with me. Like I said, you know, we weren't getting opportunities. It took for us to release music first, and then guys are like, oh, okay. And then I'm playing at all these other affiliate shows. Yeah. And you're not booking me. Now you go, oh, shucks. You know, now I'm missing out on the hype.
You're missing out on the hype.
So now I must book. But there's a lot of hype artists also.
There's a lot of hype artists, right? Actually, you're right. There's a lot of hype artists, and it's like, how do you maneuver around that?
I was a TikTok sensation, and I started a dance challenge.
I started
a dance challenge with my track, you know, whatever it is.
Doesn't that feed into that whole, what you call this, size spoken about this quite a lot, the whole co-signing thing?
Are you just co-signing to stuff the whole time?
No, as in certain people only take notice of you once.
You get a or you get a cosign.
Yeah,
have you ever gotten a cosign from like a big shot or whatever? Like someone you consider to be a big shot, or they co-signed you authentically, of course. Do you even feel like cosigns are authentic, actually? Like someone going, a cosign, a basic cosign looks like this. Or shout out to Zmang great set or publicly on Twitter or something like that. Or a cosign looks like, oh dude, you were great. Or it looks like, look out for, you know, cosigns sort of look like
so
like that.
I mean, there have been a few instances. It's always nice to receive words of affirmation and congratulations and warm embraces online, which are great. I don't look into it too much. I'm too focused on what I'm trying to achieve and what I'm doing. If I put myself in the bracket where I'm waiting for cosigns or acknowledging them or paying attention to them, then I get kind of stuck on trying to validate myself by everyone else's opinion, which I was also caught up in the cycle for quite some time prior to this year. It actually took for me to go through something quite drastically in my life in October, leaving a previous event group that I was running that I'd actually like brought up to a certain level for those reasons that I gave earlier on about working with the wrong people and working with people that are trying to reignite a part of their old past or a part of what they want to achieve when they don't respect what it took to get you. You know, it was part and parcel of one of those things ending. And I realized that a lot of that, what I wanted to do was based on trying to validate myself to the people around me that I feel I needed to be accepted. I needed to be accepted from them. And it was a very self-defeating exercise or self-defeating phase in my life, because I never actually took a step back to look at, what I've actually done. I was always looking at what you're doing now and why you're not in now, and this person is not including you now, and this person doesn't want to talk to you now, and all of these things, and maybe these people are talking to you this way now, and this is where all of the foundations of this new kind of thinking in me kind of went, came to this, speaking to people that I also look up to, guys that are giving me advice, guys that are saying things to me like, people want you to do well, but not better than them. People don't want you to talk about your accolades because it seems like you're bragging. People don't really want you to talk about yourself and what you're proud of because it seems like you're bragging. No, fuck.
What is that
fuck
actually?
That, mate, because if there's young guys looking up to me and they don't know what I've achieved, and this is that thing that makes them see oh shucks, okay. And being sincere and humble, when was that ever a problem? But no, if it just looks like you're glorifying yourself and you have an ego or whatever. So I guess there is a certain way you've got to word it, and it's because everyone's sensitive online. Everyone's a Karen in their own way online. So I got caught up in this whole kind of validating myself thing with other people. But at the end of the day, is when you're home and you're alone and you look at yourself in the mirror, the only person's acceptance you need is yourself, because no one walked those miles in your footsteps. No one made those decisions. No one sacrificed those things. No one put themselves out there like that. If there's people that you share that relation to and that mutual respect for, then that's amazing. They can see that. And if they're a little bit further than you, then yes, by all means, coach that person. I don't think you're too old to learn anything, but sitting from behind a specific room and back and stabbing each other in the back and talking shit about each other in the back when we're supposed to be growing this industry collectively doesn't bring about any kind of positive results.
That's such a kumbaya response, because I remember sitting with someone who has been in the industry for a long time. They've led part of the soulful house music industry for a long time, and he was like, oh my goodness, I feel like I haven't gotten my time. And that's based on the fact that he's a humble person. So he's like, when does a person, who validates when your time is? Because it's not like he doesn't have hits. It's not like he doesn't get booked. People don't like his music. So it's like, when is my time actually? So then you think that, then you start to spiral and think that validation, that kind of validation is some of the contributing factors that lead you towards having more eyes, more people. Probably it could have been that boost for you to get to that place that you want it to be. It's such a weird thing for me, because we also want to be very modest in what we say. Surely it's great to be modest, but like you said, at the same time, you're right. When do I get to boast about what I've done so that the next person knows?
Not really boasting, but
not boast. Yeah, for lack of a better word.
Sometimes we also need to tell ourselves these things so that we can feel good about where we're at, because maybe there's people that are not saying this around us, or maybe we need
what if they definitely not saying, they know it, but they definitely not saying it.
And sometimes you need that boost. But I also think at the heart of it comes the fact that this is an industry, like I said, where 99% of people that try and get into it don't make it, because a big part of this industry is rejection. So it's very easy for you to feel like you put your heart and your soul into a track. Yes, maybe it's not there. Or your heart and your soul into your set, and yes, maybe it's not there. And you didn't get the feedback that you wanted. So everything that you're trying to do now is you're trying to constantly validate, bless you.
Thank you.
Validate, where you are, what you're doing, if you're on the right path. Unfortunately, with social media comes a lot of, as much as it's good for promotions and all of those things, it's also very bad for one's mind. Because you start paying more attention to what other people are saying about you and other people's idea about you than the one that you have of yourself. And to not know oneself and to not conquer oneself and to know one's self-worth is like the first step to just self-damnation and self-destruction. So, and I was nearing that point where I could almost say, I didn't actually know who I was. at one stage, and also I'd come out of a really toxic relationship that I felt like also traumatized me, and everything that I was trying to do in this industry was just a distraction of what trauma that I'd gone through, and I try and invest all that hurt and use it as a drive, as I did with my mom's death, to push me. But it was two different drives. My mom's death was not toxic to me. It was a beautiful thing that happened in our life because she wasn't suffering. She went to heaven, which I don't want to see her suffer, but it created a positive inspiration and drive for me to move forward, seeing that she passed so young. But when I'd come out of a very toxic relationship, that was me trying to validate myself for trauma that I had gone through based on what someone else was saying about me, because they were trying to go out their way to deliberately hurt me. And there's a lot of people, when they're giving feedback about your art, about what you do, it's not criticism, and it's not fair criticism. A lot of it comes down to like personal attacks.
Sure.
And this is why people do feel like they need to validate themselves. Like if someone is is talking about you, about your character as an example, and saying that you are a friendly person, and they have a problem with you being a friendly person and a polite person, damn bro, what happened in your life that you can't receive happiness and friendliness? Why does it have to be that way, that we question stuff so much? And then again, I've pointed it out, it's because maybe you had an experience where this happened and you gave this person a part of you, and then you were double crossed or whatever, and now you won't do that again. But perhaps next time you don't do it, you miss out on the opportunity and the break of a lifetime, because you didn't want to break your heart in order to open it up again. And that's the truth. You have to break your heart for it to be open.
Yeah. By the way, have you seen like a shift in the kind of relationships you have now versus the kind of relationship you might have had a couple of years before? Like,
in the industry?
Yes.
Definitely I've seen a mad shift. I think the shift was also up to me. I stopped becoming a young blood in the industry. I stopped becoming an aspiring person in the industry, even though I still believe I'm an aspiring artist in my own right, because there's still levels of things that I am still to achieve that I really want to achieve. But to a lot of other people that have maybe not achieved what I've achieved, that look at me, they go, maybe he's more established. But for those relationships, of course I've seen a big change in them, because I started off being a young person in the industry to now a contributor and a mentor in the industry.
Yeah.
I've become a person where I'm respected in this industry, where they know when I do stuff, they want to be there, or they're actually calling me to be at their club because they know what we're about, and they know that we have a following and we have a culture behind us, and it stands for the right thing. So I've definitely seen a big change with myself in a lot of relationships. I feel like I've got better friendships, where before I never had friends. They were acquaintances, and they were people that I felt like I had to go out of my way to impress them. Now I don't feel like I need to impress them. A lot of them that have been in the industry for longer than I have, I've garnered their respect by things that I've done, because maybe they did not have the courage to do the things that I've done, and now I've garnered their respect from that. And also, like musically, I think I'm a good example to see that you can wear many hats and be successful in many of them and still build a platform for people while trying to maintain your own without being too biased, and being humble and inclusive.
Yeah, because what I'm thinking is, for someone who, when you start being a controlling factor, like not even a controlling factor, rather let me say, when you stop being a contributing factor in the music industry, you'll find that a lot of people want to attach themselves to you more. You get me? Because they feel like they can get something from you, they can get bookings from you, or they can get, a feature from you, or anything like that. Is that something that you feel like is happening? It might. By the way, with everything you're planning on launching,
it does happen.
It
does happen even now without the stuff that I've launched. It's like, there's guys that will watch you and go, cool, I want to be affiliated with this person for that reason, whatever. But the agenda, it comes through very quickly. I identify it very quickly, because the reasons that I'm doing it and the reason these people are doing it are very different. So if you're not aligned, like, it's very easy to see. It's like, for example, if you're a football player, right, a professional football player, and someone wants to be an aspiring football player but doesn't share the same passion that you share for football,
Sure.
you will call them out on their bullshit very quickly. It's a very similar kind of example. It's like you can try and hang around as much as possible and try and kiss ass as much as possible, but the results will speak for themselves. If all you're doing is hanging around waiting for an opportunity and not working on yourself and investing yourself on your own and sharing that with the people you're trying to kiss ass with, then they're never going to give you that platform because you're not in line. You're not willing to do what they did to get there. So why should you allow them to piggyback off you? It's the same thing with like the agendas of guys that actually want to have a music career and utilizing younger people to try and get that. You understand that very quickly. It's like where you see this person place themselves above the industry itself, you cannot be aligned with them because they are not aligned with who you are as a person in this industry and what you're striving towards.
So like when it comes to, because I'm thinking now, a lot of people say that like I'm not working with this person because we're not aligned, or I'm not saying yes because we're not aligned. So like I'm trying to think, how do you then run away from being labeled as a gatekeeper?
Listen, it's a good question. I think inherently every artist has their own career to consider. I think we often get caught up where we look at like the bigger guys above us, like the Coffees and so on of the world, and we go, you know, that's where we want to be, and I place value on myself like this, and that's the way that it needs to be done. But there's no real science of the way that it needs to be done. Black Coffee's from Alex. He played at Joe's Butcher. He was discovered in that community. So there's no real right way. How did he end up at Ibiza the way he did? He just shone at every opportunity he got. With every person that he met, he shone in those occasions. And that's the way that he grew his career. It's completely all on him and what the work he put in. He knows jazz composition. He studied it.
He
studied
it.
Those are things that he's done. You can't turn around and call him fortunate because you don't know what it cost him.
But that's the funny thing about him. He's one of, let me say, the few.
It's like an enigma.
Yeah, like it's his career path is very interesting to me because I sometimes wonder him looking at how we are as an industry in South Africa right now versus his time. I always wonder what's going on in his mind. Oguti, first of all, we know his story. We know he didn't grow up fortunate. So I always try to think as in how he feels in this day and age of social media where you can pop literally in 2 seconds. I sometimes wonder how certain artists, especially artists who had to literally grovel their way into like the industry, like then they look at the social media age right now, how their mindset is going and how
I think you've just nailed it right there. It's like his time was, it was quite early on in the social media days, so a lot of it is him getting opportunities and making the most of it. I think even as artists, like, we should also pay attention to the fact that new DJs coming up have more access to music than we did coming up. I mean, when I was in my teens, I didn't have access to download music on music platforms. I don't know what Beatport was. I mean, I'd seen it, but I didn't know that I go and I purchase music from here. A lot of people I know in high school were pirating music. And that's how you usually got all the latest music. Is there'd be this one kid that pirated all the music, and then that would be a trend in your school, and you'd find that track's a trend in another school, and that's kind of how it would come about. Also, another part of my family is my uncles were DJs, so the first time I touched vinyl, I was 3, and I was like dubbing house music shows at like 9, like Glenn Lewis and Vinny on the radio and stuff. And so I also had like that other cultural understanding. Like, I'd seen vinyls, I'd seen white vinyls, so I'd also understood that. But with the access to social media and the access to this information, anyone can be a DJ now.
Yeah, anyone.
So what really sets you apart? It's your brand now, how you conduct yourself, your skill, I think, and your music selection.
Do those things really set you apart today?
I think you should also be writing music. If it's easy to access music and it's easy to get the knowledge, then you must write music. Because if it's easier for guys to play music, And now nearly anyone can do it, because now the equipment that you're using is becoming so technically advanced and digitally advanced that you can even sync your. I mean, I don't.
There's
agree with
record
that.
box, by the way, where
where it just makes it so easy for you. Which I agree. I agree to these levels of improvement in the technology,
I guess, yeah.
because it gives you more room to express yourself and do a lot more
Yes.
there. But then it means you must work
yes,
when you're there. But yeah, I think we need to see more producers, which I think we are seeing.
Can I tell you something, right? Like I've thought about, a lot of people ask me, so Sai, I mean, why don't you just sit and produce? It's not that I don't know how to, right? It's just that I always feel like it's not in my line of what I want to do, because I've always wanted to brand myself as this music commentator and this music journalist and this person that's how I.
But you see, so that's your
myself.
product. That's your
Yeah,
product.
but now I'm looked at somehow because it's a decision that I'm trailing behind on some. Do I continue? Do I produce? But I don't want to be a DJ that produces music. I want to be the DJ that talks about the music that other people are making. I want to be that DJ.
But that's amazing. But you can't just be a DJ.
Of course.
But there's a lot of people that are just DJs.
Just DJs, yeah.
And I don't have anything against it. I think that's amazing. I would have thought that by now that this transition would have come in by now. I mean, when I looked at some of the conversations I was having, 9-10 years ago with some of my mates and fellow producers, we were saying there is going to be a time where you can't just be a DJ. But I see that is still the case, which is great. It's great for guys that can just be DJs. But I really encourage and implore people to get involved in another part of the industry just besides playing music. So like yourself, you're involved in journalism, you have this podcast, and I'm sure you do a lot of other things that culminate to produce what your brand identity is in the space, along with other guys. Some guys are DJs and photographers, some guys are videographers, some guys do events. You can't do it all, but as long as you're contributing, I think, more than just playing music out, I think it's great. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with it for those of my friends music. who are just playing music, but please invest yourself in furthering yourself in this industry anywhere you can.
Isn't it a wild thing though to think about that someone who is just playing music is probably who's just playing music and they're appealing to some to let me say what's happening right now. They're appealing to the dominating genre in music, and they just play music. By the way, they might probably become more. They might have more followers and supporters than you do, just because.
Oh, they definitely do.
Yeah,
they definitely do, because they ride on that wave, which is great. Again,
which I have no problem with.
I clap for everyone, but my whole thing is to encourage people to get more involved in this industry besides just playing music. And if that's what you're doing and you're great at it, amazing, kudos to you, because I've also seen this happen. There's a lot of great DJs, and I want to close my side of my opinion on this. There's a lot of great DJs that started off just being DJs and then got involved in production and used their career and the spotlight on them to now release music, and now they have already a following that will consume that music. So maybe this is where those DJs are going. But for me, my message is to young artists: get involved as much as you can. Get involved.
Get involved as much as you can. And it's always vice versa as well, because there are producers who decided I need to start DJing so that I can play my own music.
Get involved. You can't sit in your bedroom the whole day. You have to go out. You have to meet the promoters. You have to meet the people. You have to see what they're playing. If your music is being played, and if you find a space for it, then great. Exploit it.
You have to. Does it? By the way, do you get moments where you're just like tired?
Yeah, I burnt out last week. Because I'm doing so much. But it's also that's also my fault. That's like a self-discipline thing. It's about knowing when not to take work home with you, because I wake up at 6:30, but I'm going to bed at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock every morning.
Excuse me, you wake up at 6:30?
Yeah, I wake up at 6:30.
Good.
But it's because I work until like 12, 1 o'clock most nights. Like my brain is really busy, so I burn out from exhaustion.
Of course, if you wake up at 6 and sleep at freaking 1, 2, 3.
So it's exhaustion of the mind, and just also realize as much as this is who I am, I don't take it home with me. I must still be a normal body when I'm at home. My home is like my peace. So just knowing how to separate the 2 and when the cut-off is. So now I'm trying to create this cut-off that it's 7 or 8, but that doesn't ever exist. So now I've got to put like gym category like on the same time every day. So I have that outlet, and I play soccer, which gives me peace. But yeah, I do find that I'm very exhausted. You get exhausted with a lot of things.
Yeah.
You get exhausted with the computer screen, and you get exhausted with people.
100%.
Because when you're pushing at a certain level and people can't level with you on that level that you're on, and you got to deal with, I'm sorry to say, stupidity, but in that person's defense or those people's defense, it's not stupidity because they're not working on it as much as you are. That can become a bit frustrating, which can be heavier to bear, you know?
Yeah, because one thing I have realized is that honestly, wearing a lot of hats and getting involved is very tiring, and I think that's something that a lot of people are not prepared to do.
No, they're not. But again, like I said, like I think that this is like what I'd love to close on. This is, if it was easy, everyone would do it, and I don't see a lot of people that would invest the time and the hours that I have and a lot of my colleagues have to be where we are today,
100%.
to do what we do today.
100%. So let's close off finally. I want to know, what are we saying in terms of like the eventing space, the music space, just going forward? What I like to use the word, I use this word with you, forecasting. What are we forecasting for the eventing space, about the eventing space and about the music space? What do we want to see happening?
So I think, sheesh, it's such a broad question. I just want to speak about what we're doing.
You're doing.
So forecasting is we're going to create this 360-degree entertainment business that's really going to try and formulate some part of a glue between up-and-coming guys and established guys,
Yeah.
connecting, creating a proper channel, another channel, not say proper channel, another channel for imports and exports, musically, in the second biggest tourist destination in the country, which is that's the plan right now. There's a CSI initiative around there, and I forecast that things in this industry will continue to grow. I forecast that we'll have more up and coming artists, more young promoters, which I'm seeing, and I'd like to forecast that more people can just drop the bullshit, leave the ego, let's work together, let's support the young bloods. Understand that you supporting the young bloods gives yourself shelf life. We all got to a stage in our career where we wanted the guys before us to pass down the baton. Some of us had to fucking grab that baton. I fucking grabbed 3, bro.
For real.
I grabbed 3 or 4, one for every hat that I wore.
Like,
and luckily
for
I had important people like mentors that I mentioned earlier on that were there to guide me and hold my hand or whatever. But let's stop making it so difficult to promote this kind of thinking, that we want more people involved. We want more DJs, we want more producers, we want more videographers, we want more photographers, we want more journalists, we want more tech guys, we want more producers, we want more DJs, we want more clubs, we want more venues, we want more parties. Because the more there is, the more we all have.
Fact.
And the more we all have, the more we share. And the more we share, the more it can grow.
Share, the more we
Stop
can grow.
holding on to that shit. Like, bruh, you lost the first love of your life. It's gone. You can't hold on to that idea anymore. If there's something better out there for you and there's a way of going forward with a bunch of people that are willing to contribute and go in that direction, let's move together.
Yeah.
That closed-minded thinking, I forecast it's going to be gone, because I can see these young people, they're changing a lot of things in the world.
I'm crossing fingers hard, because we're craving a change, by the way. Like, we know we're going through a recession, but
so,
let's change some stuff.
Yeah, we gotta cut out that interest that doesn't exist.
Like, for real. Okay, let's for real. Okay, so for anyone who wants to find you on social media.
Yeah, so just I'll ask the guys just to leave my handles now in the score afterwards, and thank you so much for having me. Thanks for this platform that you have that sheds light on our industry. I know that you focus on people in this industry that you associate yourself with, and you find alignments with them and principles, and So I'm very happy that I had the space to talk
glad,
about.
I'm glad you came. I'm glad you pulled up.
Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I don't know if there's going to be a part 2, but I look forward to having you guys at all of the shows, and we can do some coverage on those shows.
Yeah,
so
100%.
It's a good commitment I'll put forward here on air.
And then the people who also are my partners are currently listening, so we'll see.
Yeah. So we'll do it. But again, really thankful to the gents behind me, Mubs and Godfrey. I really appreciate you guys, and thanks for tuning in. God bless you.
That was the Side Sessions. He's Pablo. I'm Sai Jones. Don't forget, follow him on his socials. We're going to tag them down below. Otherwise, I have nothing to say. Then until next time. Mwah.